Hello, everyone. It's been a couple of months since I've done one of these videos. And so I want to say welcome to everyone, wherever you are in the world, for stopping by and to have a little chat, perhaps, about May, the energies of May, what's coming up in May. I have to say, starting out as an astrologer, I'm really looking forward to May. If you follow me on Facebook, Holly Pool Astrology Facebook page, you will have heard me talking about, January to April. We were in quite a bit of difficult, watery type energies. There were tons of planets in the sign of Pisces. Pisces is a water sign. And in astrology, when we're dealing with water signs, there's just a lot of emotion that takes place. And sometimes when you think about the eddy of a water and how how it has a tendency to swirl itself around, that's essentially how we all were. Specifically, February and March, we were big in there. And as you know, when you watch an eddy in a stream or somewhere going, water going down a hole, um, you sometimes feel like you can get swept away in that. And that's essentially how we'd all been feeling. So if you were a water sign yourself, Cancer, Scorpio, Pisces, you were really feeling the effects of that vibrational energy. Um, it actually affected all of us. Everything that goes on up here in the sky affects us as individuals down here on Earth. We have to remember our body is well over 70% water. And so when there's water, there's tons of water in the sky with the planets. We feel that vibrational energy very deeply within. And sometimes because of that, it's hard for us to even get out of our own way. We, in astrology, when I work with a client that has a lot of water in their charts, one of the things we spend a lot of time talking about is how to not drown in that energy, but instead take that vibrational energy and turn it to a way to be able to work with it. When talking with clients, of course, as an evolutionary astrologer, I talk about us choosing our birth date, our birthplace, our birth time, parents, and so on. And we spend a lot of time with going through a chart to talk about why it would have been important for you to have perhaps chosen those particular alignments within your chart. I always laugh and joke and say, when we're on the other side before coming to Earth, we are really, really, really smart. We only become kind of a bit dumb when we get here on the Earth plane. And we have to work our way through the heaviness, the energies. Plus, we've, since December, we've had Mars out of bounds. Mars is like an unruly child, like when it goes out of bounds. And it too, it started in Leo, but it backed up into the sign of Cancer, which was water. By the time we got to roughly around Christmas area and coming through January, February, it was very deeply into that water. That really affected then our Scorpio friends. Yes, they were water, but also Mars rules Scorpio and Mars rules Aries. So it also was affecting our Aries individuals as well. And they just kept swirling in the energy. So I'm happy to say, we're sort of pulling ourselves out of that mire and that mud. Um, and so because of that, I just want to do a couple of little housekeeping things here. One is for those of you who live in Nova Scotia. I'm sure you know I live in Nova Scotia, Canada, one of the eastern provinces of Canada. Um, I'm going to be doing a class on May 3rd in Liverpool, Nova Scotia, not Liverpool, England, Liverpool, Nova Scotia, where I've put together a class. I've not seen it anywhere. It was an inspiration that worked its way through for me. And I've put together a class of recognizing when we change our solar year. So when we come to our birthday, our solar year changes. And as our solar year changes, the vibrational energy of that year changes as well. For those of you who are really sensitive to the actual planetary alignment, you feel that shift and that change. And that means we should, in our life, be using very different gemstones depending on our solar year. So I'm actually doing that class on May 3rd at 1:30 to 3:30 at a shop called The Shore Thing. It's at 275 Main Street in Liverpool. If you want more information and who to contact to register, the cost is $30. You can just send me an email and I'm happy to forward that information to you. Also, as well on Zoom, so open to all of the listeners, I'm doing a Zoom class online on May 14th called Staying True to Your Authentic Self. How we sometimes kind of fall away from being our authentic self. That will start at 8 o'clock on Halifax, Nova Scotia time, so the Atlantic Standard Time, which is 7 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. You can find that information directly on my website, www.hollypool.com. I'll put a link down underneath this video. That's where you would go to register for that particular class. As I say, it's worldwide because it's going to be done on Zoom. So let's get through, let's move our way through, and let's take a look at the planetary alignments for May. This is May 1st. I'm obviously recording this in late April, but it's May 1st here on our screen. And we've got numerous planets now that have moved. All of those planets up here on May 1st that, you know, the majority of them were all over in the Pisces energy in like February, March area. So we had lots and lots and lots of that water just drowning us. It forced us to do a lot of work on our intuition. It sort of nudged people to get back into pulling their angel cards, their tarot cards, being quite more interested in psychic development, intuitive development, working directly on that energy vibration. Now we've got the planets that have shifted into fire, into Aries. So one of the massive, big changes, of course, is Neptune. Neptune has been in Pisces for, I think it was the last 17 years. I don't have it right in front of me. But I was so over Neptune in Pisces. I was done with that. Mainly because I'm an air sign. Air signs, Gemini, Libra, Aquarius. Air signs don't work a lot with water. Why? Because air signs spend a lot of time in their head. They have a very logistical side to them. Water signs, excuse me, spend more time listening to their emotions. So sometimes we are better off with some of our complementaries. So air and fire work well together, whereas earth and water work well together. So for me, being an air sign, when there are a lot of planets in water, I don't quite know what to do with them. And I'm sure a lot of our air signs have. So I was certainly willing and waiting for that change of Neptune to slip over into the sign of Aries. It's not been in Aries for 165 years. So nobody here on the earth plane has experienced it at least in this lifetime. You've probably lived in another lifetime at one point in time that had Neptune and Aries. And so Neptune entered into Aries in very, very, very last day of March, first day of April, depending on where you live in the world due to your time zones. And now Neptune is getting settled into the sign of Aries. Is it going to stay in Aries? No. It will start to retrograde. I do believe it's July 4th. It's going to start to retrograde, and it will retrograde back into Pisces by the later part of 2025. And then in 2026, it will actually very, very early in 2026, I do believe it's in January, it will move back into Aries, where it will then stay for a long period of time. So Neptune is an outer planet, what we refer to as an outer planet. It's not very close to the sun. The planets that are close to the sun are like Mercury and Venus and the moon and even Mars for that matter. And in ancient times when they didn't have telescopes, you could only see out as far as Saturn. That's as far as the naked eye would go. Well, Neptune is well out past Saturn. So ancient farmers out with their sheep in the fields looking up at the stars at night would never have been able to see Neptune. So we call Neptune an outer planet. It's a much further away. And I always find that when you have outer planets, even Saturn we're going to see is going to go into Aries. Outer planets, it almost reminds me of sitting on a chair and then standing up, and you got static electricity, and so you got to move around your pants or move around your skirt because they kind of get stuck to you a bit. And that's how I find that it is when those outer planets move into a new sign. And we're just kind of getting a bit used to Neptune in Aries. Neptune in Aries is giving us those dreams, those ideas. And Aries, of course, is a fire sign, so it's action. And I'm willing to bet that a lot of you certainly started to get that sense of inspiration. Now, our friends who were born around that March 20th, 21st, 22nd, got Neptune now sitting right on their sun sign. Or if you have another piece within your chart that is at 1 degree Aries somewhere, you're going to be trying to almost like dance around it to try to figure out, what am I supposed to do with this energy? Well, it's asking you to dream. It's asking you to be open. It's asking you to be open for possibilities. If you know any Aries people, they're very forward thinking. They are the first sign out of the zodiac. They're the first one ahead of the pack. They're the first one that's got things going. Remember back at the very, very beginning there, and I just put this together. I said, May 3rd, I'm doing that class on gemstones connected with your solar year. I've never taught that class. I don't know of anyone who teaches that class. That's just something that worked its way through. That has been since that 1st of April. So that's exactly how Neptune has worked for me. Am I an Aries? No, I'm an Aquarian. But Aries is a fire. Aquarius is air. So air and fire. That Neptune in Aries is pushing all our fire signs. So our Aries, our Leo, our Sagittarius people, we're feeling that sense of that push. Neptune is saying, you've been sort of laying down for too long. You've been sort of pushing down a lot of those interests and things you want to do. Okay, let's go. Let's get going. So early fire signs and early air signs, Gemini, Libra, and Aquarius. So Neptune is working its way through. We also have Mercury, that planet of communication is in Aries. So bit of our fourth conversations coming forward will be very interesting. Now, again, I'm doing this well before the Canadian election. So watch when we get around this first part of May, whoever may choose to get in at that particular point in time, will be interesting on their forward thinking conversations as they make their way through. Now, we do still have some water, some energetic water going on. We still have the North Node in Pisces. So I've been talking to a lot of my clients, and a lot of them are saying, I'm getting that feeling of I got to pull out my tarot cards, or I got to pull out my angel cards. And my answer is absolutely you do, because that North Node going through Pisces, our North Node up in the sky is helping us to get on our senses to where we're going and where we need to go. We're going to see Saturn come out of Pisces. Thank God. We're going to see Saturn come out of Pisces in very late May, which I will be covering. And we'll see Ceres, C-E-R-E-S, Ceres, motherhood, mothership, mothering, mother connection. We're going to find that that's going to come out of Pisces and move its way forward. So there's lots of action that's going on within the chart. One of the things as well is that we've got, as I'm get to 1st of May, we've got Mars and Pluto opposing each other. Now, Mars, I talked about Mars a little tiny bit earlier. I said Mars was like an out of control child. And it's only in the later part of April that started to come into, and like the child started to behave and so on. I have no doubt in my mind that this also is all around that whole tariff situation as well. I'm thinking by the time we work our way through May, all that will have calmed down, and people will have said, oh, because it's election, and it's because of this, and it's because of that. No, it is totally because planetary wise up there. And Mars and Pluto, they started a bit of their fight in like late November coming into December last year. So that was the ending part of 2024. And up to this stage, up to this 1st of May, they really haven't behaved themselves. There's been a huge tug of war. And you look at it in your own personal chart, look at where the sign of Aquarius is, and look at where the sign of Leo, Cancer is. And that in your chart is where you felt this, complete pull. 1st of May, Mars is at 5 degrees Leo. Mars is coming out of its shadow. So Mars had made it all the way up to 6 degrees Leo. Let me go this way. Mars had made it all the way to 6 degrees Leo. On the 6th of December, Mars started to move backwards. Mars started to say, let's go back and review stuff. Let's go back and review stuff. Let's go back and review stuff. And then on the 24th of February, Mars said, okay, we've done enough of the review. Now we need to do some repair. And now we need to get some answers. And now we need to look at things. But even at the 1st of May, it still hasn't made it back to that 6 degrees Leo where it was when it originally started. So we're still in that repairing of the old. We can't entirely feel like we're getting out of our own way. We're almost there. And so, we're spending our time working our way through. On the 1st of May, Venus has just slipped into Aries. So now Venus is having a conversation with Neptune. Venus is saying, Neptune, remember when you talked about what you loved to do, Venus? What you loved to do? Well, you know what? I'm going to be like this magical wand, and I'm going to give you that magical sprinkle, 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 sprinkle fairy dust on you. And I'm going to let you now get a plan of action on how you're actually going to move that forward. So it'll be interesting this early part of May. As I said to you, I am so looking forward to May. I am. The next day I want to go to is the 4th of May, because that is the day that Pluto will start to retrograde. Now you can see by the 4th of May, Mars have gone past that 6-degree mark. It's gone to the 7-degree mark, so it's just coming out of its shadow. But coming back to that 4th of May, we're going to see Pluto start to retrograde. And this is the interesting thing. Pluto on the world stage, Pluto is about giving the power back to the people. And Pluto is also about changing world order. So I know that there are some politicians out there who believe that they are in full control of massively changing world order. And you hear that. You hear that. If you listen to YouTube videos, you hear people say, and so has changed world order. No, no, no. They are just a conduit of things that are meant to happen. Every time Pluto goes into the sign of Aquarius, which is 265 years when Pluto goes into Aquarius. So again, everybody alive today has not dealt with Pluto and Aquarius. Pluto also gives the power back to the people. So in situations such as we've just sort of gone through, the whole situation between the US and Canada, Canadian people decided to take up their own power, right? It was like the power was given back to the people. They decided to play their own game. They decided to boycott travel. They decided to boycott liquor. They decided to boycott all kinds of stuff. But that's a Pluto thing. Pluto about giving the energy back to the people. We see protests all over the world. Why? People do not want rulership. You are not telling me what to do is a Pluto thing. It's also an Aquarian thing too, by the way. So Pluto, has been, since last October, Pluto's been pushing the limit, pushing the limit, pushing the limit, pushing the limit. And so now when Pluto starts to retrograde, Pluto's going to go, okay, I'm gonna kind of, give the world a little bit of a reprieve here, and I'm going to let things settle down, and I'm going to see how we're doing with the lessons, working with the lessons, getting things into order. I'm just gonna sit back here. So it kind of reminds me almost like a parent who has, say, taught a child how to drive, and they're just sitting right now in the passenger seat. And that will be Pluto. Pluto will pick itself up again once we get to the fall. When we get to October, Pluto will come back through again. But for now, Pluto's just going to sit down and sit back. And that's really going to, it's really affected our Aquarian friends. Really affected our Aquarian friends that were born in very late January. It's really affecting our Taurus friends born in late April. It's really affecting our Leo friends born in late July. And it's really affecting our Scorpio friends born in late October. So all of you have been massively affected over this last, well, even 2.5 to 3 years. May have affected your health in some way. Nothing gets our attention more than fooling around with our health. That really gets our attention. But let me say, there've been many other indications leaning up to it. And often our health is one of the last straws that the universe pulls to get our attention. If we are paying attention all the way through, we are aware all the way through, we don't have to go down the road of a health issue. I'll do a video on that someday. Our next big alignment after that is going to be getting to, you see, now I'm up to the 11th of May, and Pluto is in its retrograde motion. So let's go to the 11th of May, and on that particular day, we've got Mercury, the planet of communication. Mercury is just entered into the sign of Taurus. It always does around this time of year. So any conversations, any financial types of conversations, anytime we're trying to sell something, I know people talk about, oh, May is best to sell the house or sell the car or sell the truck or sell the boat or sell the whatever it might be. I was going to go down that road, but I won't. But Mercury and Taurus is about money discussions. Taurus is about security. Taurus is about our banking industry. So when we talk about the Bank of Canada, and lots of times they talk about whether they're lowering the rates or whatever. Lots of times, Mercury, the sign that Mercury is going in, or the planets that are in the sign of Taurus are really being affected by it. This is the whole interest rate. This is the whole bit about the recession. Again, I know that we have some leaders who fully believe that they are massively in control of whether we go into a recession or planetary wise will tell you that. And personally, I think as long as Saturn is in Pisces, which it will be up until later May, there will be discussions about recession. Personally, once Saturn has gone into Aries, which is going to be the 26th of May, so later part of May, then I think we'll start to see the whole economy rebounding. And so, yeah, it's not entirely about somebody else. It never is. Let's go to the next day because that's the 12th, and that's the full moon. And the full moon is in Scorpio. Full moon is actually at, let me come back and get the exact full moon here. Full moon's at 22 degrees Scorpio, which to me is always interesting because you can bring numerology into that. You can bring 22 degrees. People who are life path number of a 22 is considered a master number. And I think we're going to see some masterful decisions definitely being made at this full moon. For many reasons, the full moon brings full light. And there's going to be a lot of very big financial decisions. I would take a shot in the dark and say this is also a huge time of relooking at tariffs. Are they working? Are they not working? Is it working for anybody? Is it not working for anybody? Because that full moon brings complete full light. So there will be a huge investigation done during this time. Why? Because Scorpio is the investigative sign. They are a lot of our policemen, investigators are Scorpios. And if you know any Scorpio individuals, they love to investigate. Give them something to investigate, look into, find clues, find answers, do research. That's where they best fit quite often. And that full moon, you can see is lined up with the asteroid goddess Vesta. Vesta is about partnerships and relationships. So I'm willing to bet that there will be a huge investigation, perhaps done worldwide. Maybe they'll put together a team in the US and Canada and Europe and England and wherever, in order to take note of what's going on, because that sun, you can't have a full moon without the sun being opposite the moon, because the moon itself has no light. And so at night, when the sun shines on the moon, you get the reflection back to Earth. I'm going to take a little side road here for a moment. I am working on a biodynamic gardening course, and I'm not writing it, I'm reading it from way back in the early 1900s. And Rudolf Steiner gave numerous lectures. And he talked about the force of the energy on our plants. And he said the moon is the greatest force on the plants because daytime, you get the sun shining on the plants. But nighttime, you get the sun shining on the moon and the moon shining on the plants. So instead of just having the sun vibration, now you have the sun and the moon vibration. I just thought that was brilliant. That was wonderful. So full moons, we love full moons. As I said, they do bring vibrational energy and full light. And the sun is sitting next to Uranus, the planet of unexpected events that's going on, connected in the banking industry. This is a huge night to look at the vibrations. Somewhere around that 12th, might be the 11th, 12th, 13th, you can mark your calendars. Guaranteed, they will be putting together some type of an investigative type group. Also, at that same time, we've got Ceres. Ceres is about motherhood, mothership, mothering, but Ceres is also about claiming what is rightfully mine. And Ceres will be sitting with the sign of Saturn, the responsibility. That's creating a trine. We like trines. Trines make it easy. And it's creating a sextile. So this is not a problem. This is something that is actually working really well. We will get somebody who stands up and wants to go against it. We do have the asteroid goddess Pallas Athene there. She's creating a T-square. So there will be someone who wants to rebut it. Good luck with that, because we've got a trine going otherwise, and that will bring in a sense of ease. Then we're going to come to the 17th is our next planetary alignment, when now Ceres comes into the sign of Aries. Ceres is again about claiming what is rightfully mine. So this is giving Ceres the full control of digging in and finding those answers. We also have Saturn at the 29-degree mark. You know about astrology, 29 degrees is what we refer to as a critical degree. And Saturn's finishing off her last journey through the sign of Pisces before she slips into the sign of Aries, which again will be around that 26th period. And I don't think Saturn, well, that's true. Saturn will slide back into Pisces in the later part of the year. but it's getting a little bit of a taste first. And this is one of the things I've talked about with all of my readings with clients. May, June, July, August, and September, those 5 months will give us huge indications of what 2026 will look like. By the ending part of the year, that October, November, December period, we will slip back a bit into a lot of the Piscean energy, so that watery energy we just came out of in April. But we will have learned a lot by that particular point in time. Also on that 17th, you've got Uranus at 27 degrees Taurus and the Sun at 27 degrees Taurus. So we say Uranus will be sitting in the heart of the Sun. It's a Cazimi Uranus, the same degree as the Sun. And that's going to give a lot of power to Uranus. So that will give a lot of power to determine how to create some type of a stabilization within the financial industry, is where we're going to see that. Then we'll come to the 21st, and that's the day, the 21st is when the Sun slips into the sign of Gemini. I almost forgot what that sign was. Slips into the sign of Gemini. And so we start then to say happy birthday to our Gemini friends or any children that will be born. This is after 1:23 in the afternoon when the Sun slips into Gemini, which tells me if you have a child that is born early morning on the 21st, say you have a child that's born at 7:30, 8 o'clock in the morning, that child will be a Taurus. They are not a Gemini until after that 1 p.m. And I smile a lot because I hear parents, you know, that are going to be parents say, oh, I want my child to be an Aquarian, or I want my child to be an Aries, or I want my child. My answer is good luck with that, because you don't choose. The child chooses. Let's come to the 26th of May, and that's the day when Saturn comes into the sign of Aries. Now, Saturn's not been in Aries for 30 years. That was the last time Saturn was in Aries. So Saturn now, just like I talked about, like the skirt and the electromagnetic waves and trying to sort things through. That'll be an interesting day as well, the 26th of May. There will be a huge force energy in the sign of Aries. Now you can see all of that Arian energy. We only have the North Node in Pisces. That's it. Now we've got a lot of the fire and the air happening. So that brings also heat to the Earth plane. Planetary wise, you will find, according to the biodynamic, a lot of the growth mechanism is done directly with Saturn, connection with Saturn. I suspect Saturn in Aries will be a lot happier than Saturn has been in Pisces. And, Saturn's going to come to align with Neptune, which has been a lot of years since that has absolutely happened. Because remember, Neptune has not even been in Aries for 165 years. And then we would have had to also have Neptune going into Aries to make that happen. So we're talking ancient times. So again, it's not surprising from my perspective that I've gone back to biodynamic gardening, which really originated around the 1920s. You will find that there's a lot of even manuals. You'll go back to reading some books. I was at my hairdresser's this morning, and she was actually talking about gone back to a book that comes from the 1800s, talking about dealing with religion and devotional study was what that was all about. Then we come to the next day, the 27th, and I've got to come back to my hour mark here. So this is going to bounce this around a bit because I need the moon to come up with the same degree as the sun. So it's going to roll around the chart. I'm sorry on the eyes. 6 degrees. There's the new moon. The new moon is always when the sun and the moon are at the same degree. And this particular new moon sits right next to Mercury. Mercury is the ruler of all this Gemini. So Mercury is going to be talking very, very loudly on this new moon. For those of you who will be into the planting world, new moons are fantastic days for planting plants, setting your seeds directly out into your garden. Now they'll be having, that new moon is creating a conversation with Pluto. Yeah, Pluto is retrograding there, but the new moon will be saying, remember in times past, when you've talked about ending some things, you've talked about changing some things, you've talked about moving some things around. Okay, talk is over. This is a new moon. So it's a very dark night out there. Remember, we said the sun shines on the moon to give us the face of the moon. When it's a new moon, we don't see the moon because the sun and the moon hold the same spot. So there's no shining at all. So it's a very dark night with regards to that. But Mercury is having a long conversation and saying, okay, let's look at things from both sides now. I almost feel like I want to break out into song. From both sides now. And Gemini is the twins. These are our options. When you talked about making the ending or creating the finishing and the ending before, you didn't really have sort of a feeling sometimes, a bit of that opportunity. So now looking at all of our options with this new moon, it also brings us total new vibrational energy. So you can see why the new moon, and you can see why May is offering so much more of a promise than we have seen throughout all of the previous months of 2025. To me, it almost feels like May is really the beginning of 2025, that we were only just playing beforehand. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I hope that you learned a bit about the planetary alignment. I love your conversations underneath. It helps us to grow the channel. So please write a note. Please share with your friends. And I hope to see you at some of our classes. Let's make 2025 the best year that we could ever make. Take care.